Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this somewhat typical British morning. My name is Richard Munro. I'm a Senior Business Development Manager here at Drooms, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Michelle.
Hi, everyone.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join our third and final webinar in our three-part series about Brian, the fund manager. So, Michelle, show us the plan for today.
So first of all, we would like to give you a brief introduction as to who we are and what we do at Drooms. Then we're going to provide you with a brief recap on Droom's portfolio. Afterwards, we are discussing divestment challenges that are being faced today. And we will dive into one of our data rooms to show you how Drooms can help you meet those challenges when disposing of assets. There's a box to your right where you can type in questions, which we will then happily answer at the end of the webinar or at a later stage. All in all, we are expecting to take about 20 minutes of your time today.
Fantastic. Okay, so firstly, just a very brief intro to Drooms. So there's a bit of facts about us on the screen now, but the important part is we've been in this business for 20 years. So that's 20 years of providing data rooms, technology and service, both for transactions and for asset/portfolio/fund management. So we consider ourselves to be somewhat experienced in the matter, as it's been our sole focus all of this time. Okay, so, let's get on with the series. So we're going to go back to Brian, and here he is with his glass of wine. For the purpose of the series, we've been saying that Brian is a fund manager, but in reality, he could be an asset manager, portfolio manager, anyone in between, who is responsible for the management of investment information. Now, in our first episode, Michelle discussed the challenges Brian faced for cross-border transactions in asset management. Then in our second webinar, I discussed the challenges around sorting and organizing your investment data. And in both of those, we showed solutions using Droom's portfolio, which is also the plan today. So the question is, what is Droom's portfolio? And it's fairly straightforward. So it's a cloud storage and sharing solution and much more. It's an intelligent and secure portfolio management data room that allows for fast and secure management of multiple assets through their hold phase, and all under one umbrella. It lets people like Brian sort of increase their transparency, reactivity, and the speed at which the assets can be set up, structured, and then, of course, sold. So Droom's portfolio minimizes risk by enabling better control and delivers process automation at scale with next generation tools, which you will experience today. Now, before we jump into the data room with Michelle, it's worth taking stock of some of the challenges Brian faces in today's market.
There are many of them, from fierce competition in strong sectors like logistics, the increased focus on ESG, travel restrictions, and tenancy concerns, and the list goes on and on. How can Drooms help with these issues? Well, there are a number of areas where Drooms can help and where Drooms provide value.
And specifically what we're going to be looking at today is, helping with cost pressures, meeting transparency demands, asset management, and helping with deal underwriting and due diligence. And Michelle, you're going to be showing us how, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. First though, I wanted to quickly talk about the billing aspects, which when done right, can help alleviate cost pressure. So at Drooms, we recognize that a single bill for an entire portfolio can create a lot of work for poor Brian here, as he would have to break down and manually allocate the costs to single assets and SPVs. So with our portfolio data room, we're able to bill each asset individually. So these invoices can be sent directly to the responsible SPVs, and that helps Brian avoid a whole bunch of work. Looking like a happy chap down there. All right, well, that's it from me. Over to you, Michelle.
Okay, thanks. Let's have a closer look by diving right into the platform, showing you the value add provided by Drooms, assisting Brian and his fund with a smart data room. Please imagine me being Brian now, accessing Drooms and my portfolio data room dedicated to my fund, which is a hotel portfolio. These are all the data rooms that I have access to. As you can see here on the screen, we are hopping straight into our hotel portfolio, our umbrella data room holding and covering all related assets. Quick introduction for the ones that are new to Drooms. The look and feel is pretty much always the same. We have a cockpit on the left-hand side. In my case, as Brian with my hotel portfolio, the single tiles here represent the single assets. My hotel portfolio fund contains 5 hotels based in 5 different countries. I've uploaded some photos in the exposés also to just make it a bit more welcoming.
Okay, great. So let's start and go ahead with the topic, sort of simple and quick indexing and structuring. So an essential part and backbone to the success of any deal is the preparation of the documentation. So locating and aggregation of data remains a particularly time-consuming task, and if done poorly, can create severe delays or loss of opportunity even. So it's well invested time to standardize an index that meets your requirements. And an index basically is just a skeleton for the data in your data room. Now, a standardized and well-designed index allows the user to navigate the data easier, faster, and therefore more efficiently from your JV partners through to the bidders and what have you. Now, Drooms, we provide standard indexes. For example, you can see here on screen a translation of the German GIF index. Now, supported by the German Society of Property Researchers with the goal to improve efficiency, an official index for real estate data rooms has been published, which is the German GIF index. This index was jointly developed by Drooms and 6 other companies. The index includes legal, technical, and tax verticals and can be used for your data rooms as well. But nevertheless, we know that standard templates might not be 100% suitable for your setup like it is here for Brian. Therefore, we have a team of experts available to help you design your own customized index structure to standardize your investment documentation.
Our data room here in the example has been populated with quite some files already. The grayed out section means that there are no files uploaded yet. As you can see here, black means there are documents available. Our asset is a great and very realistic example. Our predefined index tree provides guidance to our asset managers and also the operating partners with regards to their responsibilities and where to provide, or better to say, to upload the relevant information. I might have a property manager in charge of the technical information of my asset. He has content management rights, oversees the technical documentation, and thanks to my predefined index structure, my property management team knows exactly where to upload, let's say, new electricity certificates or elevator maintenance licenses, for example.
All right, so back to Brian. So Brian's been holding this French hotel for 5 years. We've found a reliable long-term tenant for him, and he did some refurbishment last year, which is all wrapped up now. Now, Brian's aiming to dispose of the asset in this next 12 months. Unfortunately, he hasn't seen a great opportunity on the market yet. There's no potential buyer, but we all know how quick and fast this might change.
So back to our data room, how can we prepare ourselves for an upcoming disposal? Our asset data is quite extensive. We have encouraged all parties actually to upload documents over the past years, but most likely not all of these documents stored in the data room are actually really transaction relevant. Moreover, there might be a few documents still missing. To be able to have an overview and to get a better understanding of how ready I am to kick off a due diligence process, I am going to use the Drooms transaction readiness feature. A quick and fast due diligence can be achieved by providing essential and relevant documents and by not flooding the deal team with unnecessary files, because this is obviously slowing down the process. As the manager in charge, I went through my index structure yesterday already, and I highlighted the index points, the different sections and folders in the data room that are transaction relevant by simply clicking on the buttons available right here. Let's have a look at folder 2.7, which is a great example. I've decided that all index points part of my folder 2.7 are transaction relevant. it is now clear to see that a few index points have not been populated by the teams in charge yet. The status indication here helps me understanding what is still missing. Status ready versus status pending, which means a document is available versus a document that is still missing an empty index point. To see the bigger picture, I'm going to leave my data room now, hopping back into our tile view where I have an overview of all assets, and the green bar is now showing up indicating the readiness. So I can see now 77% of the transaction relevant documents are already available within the data room. The rest is obviously still missing, which is a sign for us to chase the parties involved.
Just a quick note on that as well. So the Drooms platform doesn't assess the relevance of the documents for you. So as the fund manager in charge, Brian, he must manually decide which files and index points are relevant and need to be provided in order to go into a transaction. The feature, the transaction readiness feature, simply supports this workflow. Alrighty, so next, we'd like to speak about another feature which assists us preparing the data room and making sure we are ready for a transaction, and that is the findings manager. So when we're preparing a sale, the tool helps us to put ourselves into the shoes of the potential buyer or buyers. What are they going to be looking for in the data room? What are the risks and opportunities of the new acquisition? In this, transparency is key. The faster we can get them that information, the faster a decision can be reached and a transaction can be made. And the findings manager helps us to run an extended search within the data room to go through the documentation with the help of predefined categories and keywords.
A bit more in detail, the Findings Manager is a more sophisticated search tool compared to a simple search functionality. It is context sensitive. It recognizes words, semantic patterns, and even synonyms. So what you can see here on the left-hand side are the categories I have created previously. Once you open up a category, you can find a couple of keywords that I've added belonging to this category. But let us start from scratch and let's create a brand new category. Naming the category and adding a couple of keywords that are relevant. I am going to create my insurance category with the following keywords: insurance policy, premises, policy, and covering.
Now, our experience tells us that optimal results can be produced using between 5 to 7 keywords and phrases. And in addition to that, we do have predefined categories available, which are related to M&A and German real estate. And we're adding more and more categories as we go. Right now, you can see Michelle's just showing us where you can access those. The categories you pick or create will be saved under your profile. And you can be used for every other data room that you access. And we're also currently working on Findings Collaborator, which you'll be able to then share with your colleagues.
Okay, let's have a very quick look at the results of our newly created category. We're currently looking at our insurance category. We can now see what the data room found for us here on the right-hand side. The findings are listed per relevance based on the density and number of detected keywords within the documents.
And, we've got to ask ourselves, are there any potential risks that might stand out to the deal team on the buy side as well? Is there anything we can do as sellers to mitigate these risks before inviting potential bidders to start the DD?
All right, when I access my file, the preview opens up here on the right-hand side, and the keyword is highlighted, as you can see here. I can now either convert my result into a finding or discard it. When converting it into a finding, I can add comments, notes, and I can even assess the findings, as you can see right here. To get in touch with the team and then to obviously also mitigate the risks, I would like to create a report of my findings, which can be done up here at the top right-hand side.
And then the system's going to create an Excel sheet with all findings, all of our notes, and all of our comments.
Exactly. And this is an example of how the report looks like. The structure is most likely familiar to you. You might know it from the red flag report.
Brilliant. Okay, so moving on. Seamless managing of third parties is the next point that we wanted to discuss. So when it comes to potential transactions, we might, Brian will need to involve advisors, partners to assist him with the perfect data room setup, because he's looking at making it all ready for the bidders and what have you. So Brian, as Brian, I've mandated a legal advisor, as Brian's not a legal expert. That legal advisor will help get ready for the sale. So this means as a first step, that legal team will have to review my documentation as a first step.
Okay, I'm hopping into the user section now, where I will create a new user group called Legal Advisors, and I will add an email ID already in here, expert@legal.com. I'm not going to invite the user yet because I want to make sure that I grant access to the right section in the data room first. So I'm simply creating my group, accessing it right here, and I would like my legal advisors to review my legal documentation as part of the French asset. And I would also like to set the more detailed permissions right here.
So, Brian has his index just so, and in this very first step, he wants the legal team to review the legal documentation. He doesn't want them to mess up the rest of the index, which has been put together. He just wants them to get a first picture.
Exactly. I'm looking at my legal advisors, and I believe the icons are pretty straightforward. I'm going to grant my legal advisors viewing rights on my legal entity documentation. I stands for viewing rights. The printer here stands for printing rights, either print to paper or print to PDF. Could also grant download rights, meaning the user could access the native file. And then last but not least, 3 different types of edit content management rights. First of all, you could allow your users to change the index structure, to upload and delete files. The second option would be to create only, meaning the users could upload new files, but they wouldn't be able to delete anything. And the last option right here would be create with approval. You as an administrator would need to approve the file before the document gets visible to any other users in the data room. We're going to stick to our viewing rights, save, and that's it.
And so that's pretty straightforward. So back to Brian now. So sometimes past, we're prepped and ready. He's been working on his portfolio and his asset within the portfolio. And luckily, he's been approached by a few brokers, and there are a couple of opportunities out there, even several parties interested in acquiring his French hotel there. So it's time for him to take the next steps, and that's a transaction data room. So for a clean and separate independent environment outside of my portfolio data room, he just simply asked Drooms to move all the transaction relevant content into its own dedicated transaction data room.
The Droom support team will set this up still the same day. At Drooms, we are more than just customer services. There's a dedicated project management team assisting Brian and his colleagues with tasks such as indexing or the user administration. And especially when it comes to a transaction, we have to be quick and very well organized. So I'm going to hop into a transaction data room just to give you an understanding of how it looks like and that you get a feeling for it.
Brilliant. Okay. And while Michelle's doing that, it's important for Brian to think about, what is necessary when we are moving into a transaction environment. So, for Brian, okay, his legal advisors have been great in getting him prepared, but when it comes to a sale, he'll need further assistance, like some brokers and what have you. And so he'd like those advisors to administrate the data room with him. So not necessarily all of them, but a few will need to have access to the full data room report, which helps track the bidder's activities and updating files if needed. The newly opened data room allows me to invite those advisors as administrators. Another thing as well to think about that Brian Hill needs to have a Q&A to help control, manage, and streamline the bidder's questions. The transactional data room allows Brian to configure a workflow that suits his needs. And again, the Droom support, assists us and assists him with that. And together we can define a configuration that fits best for Brian.
And in addition to that, I need data room archives at the end of the deal, which I would like to add to the SPA. Archives should ideally display the bidder's view of the data room, including their asked questions and the answers we provided. Moreover, for an internal use, once we close the data room, we would like to have a final copy of the administrator's view, including all the reports and the Q&A. Speaking about the reports, I would like to hop into the reporting module of our data room briefly, just to show you the extensive amount of reports we have available. Besides a heat map and a couple of nicely displayed dashboards, you can find the raw data reports here at the bottom. All reports are available for download to Excel, and as I mentioned, they can be added to the final archive. Everything is tracked and traced. The final archive, a USB stick, is included and is part of the transaction data room setup. And another great advantage I'd like to point out is that as part of the portfolio agreement, the transaction data room costs are massively reduced. But let's also take the worst case scenario into consideration. What if, for example, the sale doesn't go through? None of the bidders is willing to purchase my asset, which is sad, but it can happen. The Drooms project management team will simply then take the content of the transaction data room and move it back into the portfolio setup. Maybe we just need to wait a bit longer. Maybe Brian needs to improve the asset's quality a little bit, and then kicking off another sale next year, for example. All processes are assisted and supported by the Drooms customer service and project management team.
Brilliant. Well, that brings Brian's story to a close, and also with it, this webinar. So today we've spent the last short while showcasing part of Droom's toolset to show how we can save you time and reduce costs by speeding up the way you prepare your assets for disposal. Both mine and Michelle's contact details are on the screen here in case you want to continue the conversation offline. But for now, if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them.
I think we're good in time, and I think there are no questions.
All right.
People are shy, which is fine. All right. I think then that's it from us today. Please don't hesitate to get in touch if you think there's any way we could help you or one of your clients. We're here for you, and definitely looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
All righty.
Have a great day.
Bye for now.